Hi, I'm James Nelson, Vice Chairman at Cushman & Wakefield. I'm here to bring you the Nelson Report's August 2015 podcast. In this month's write-up, I'm talking about what impact the new rent regulation guidelines will have on pricing for New York City multifamily. Now, historically, New York City has enjoyed the best pricing for multifamily in the U.S. and probably the world. In fact, in our first quarter report, we show that the average cap rate for a walk-up apartment building was a shockingly low 3.4%, with elevators trading at 3.5%. If you look at other major cities throughout the U.S., they're trading in a cap rate band of mid-4s to into the 5% range. That includes Boston, D.C., Chicago, L.A., and in fact, San Francisco is the only other major city in the U.S., or I should say the only other city in the U.S., that is also seeing cap rates in the mid 3% range. However, New York City, over the last 4 years, and this is all according to the Real Estate Capital Analytics, has had the most cap rate compression of these major cities. But that could all suddenly change. So the New York State Assembly recently passed the Rent Guidelines Act of 2015 that will go into effect for the next 4 years. And if the rent freeze for rent-stabilized apartments wasn't enough, they're now going to make it impossible to decontrol a rent-stabilized apartment until the next tenant vacates. So this will probably be much to the delight of Mayor de Blasio, who has even said we should entirely get rid of vacancy to control. So let's talk about how this works, because I don't think a lot of people understand this yet and know about the full ramifications. So for those of you who do have a sense and have dealt with capital improvements before, you know there's a difference between buildings with 35 and under units and over. So I'm going to be talking about for a larger apartment building right now. So if you have a $1,000 a month 2-bedroom apartment that's rent stabilized and it vacates, okay, what happens here is that you're going to get an 18% vacancy allowance, okay? So that would bring the registered rent up to $1,180, okay? So the name of the game used to be to raise this registered rent up to $2,500, because once you do that, the unit then becomes fair market and you can charge whatever the market will bear, okay? So how much would it cost to renovate a 2-bedroom? I think we can all agree that if you spent $100,000, that would be a lot. So let's spend $100,000 on this unit. Now what happens is they're going to give you 1/60th of that renovation cost that you can apply to that base monthly rent, okay? That equals $1,667. That brings the registered rent now up to $2,846. Now with the luxury decontrol up to $2,700, you would think this becomes destabilized, but it does not. It is still rent stabilized, okay? So how much of an impact is this going to happen? How much income are you going to lose here? Well, if the market value of this apartment is $6,500 a month and you can only now charge $2,846, this is going to be a loss of monthly income of $3,653. 12 times, you're losing $43,000, $840 a month. At a 5% cap rate, you're talking about a loss in value of $876,000 for that unit. That is astronomical. But again, I can't even charge, that landlord can't charge that $6,500 unless they do the appropriate amount of work. So if you wanted to do that, okay, you got $100,000 of renovation. To make up this shortfall here, okay, I did the math before, you can tell, you'd have to spend another $219,000. So the question is, are you going to spend close to $320,000 to renovate that apartment to then only end up with a rent-stabilized tenant at $6,500 a month? And P.S., if you're giving a tenant paying this kind of rent protection, you know, I don't see how that is really within the spirit of why this program was originally created. So we've got some major problems here. I don't think people are talking enough about it. They might not understand the full ramifications, but once they do, this has to have a negative impact on pricing. So landlord groups are now talking about taking this to the Court of Appeals, saying that this is not the interpretation that could take place, but it does seem clear that this is how this is to be treated, and I know many operators now who are abiding by this. So this is definitely a challenge. I wish I had better news for you coming into the summer, but this is what it is, and hopefully I'll have better news for you coming into the fall. That's it for this month. Thank you so much.